It's the George Plaster Show. 30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee. Featuring Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer Watson Brown. And it's a shame it's taken this long to get an introduction for this Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer, Kelly Holcomb, along with young gun Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in. It's kind of a cloudy, overcast Monday. And from what everybody's hearing, we've got a chance of some pretty significant storms tomorrow late in the afternoon, and I guess on beyond that. So you might want to check the old weather over the next 24 hours because it could get a little hairy. Welcome to our digs at the Ford Ice Center. Let's send it to Murfreesboro. Say hello to Kelly Holcomb. Kelly, how are you?
Good, George. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Get yourself lined up.
Oh,
Get in the middle.
absolutely. It's very critical.
Oh, William would be on you if you didn't.
Oh, he was. He was. Thank you. Thank you. Of all the issues, that the show might face, that
It's
one
not a
just
problem.
doesn't really seem. I mean, personally, I think the show would be better if you couldn't see me.
Just have you off to the side and
just, put a bag over my head, a mask, whatever. So, Kelly, how much hoops did you watch over the weekend?
I watched a little bit. I had to leave yesterday, and I was not able to see the NC State game and the Duke game. I called you because I was keeping up with it on my phone, but I just couldn't see it. I mean, have you ever like this is such a semblance of what happened with Jim Valvano a long time ago. I mean, you got this team that's in it's kind of like the Houston Cougars of old with Clyde Drexler, with Akeem back in the day, and they were unstoppable. And it seems like that's what UConn is. And then you got NC State, who had to win the ACC tournament just to get into the 64-team field. And golly, man, are they the hottest team in America right now? It's unbelievable. They're going to have a tough task, obviously, against Zach Edey and the Purdue Boilermakers, but it just seems reminiscent of what we went through in 1983.
It is so eerie. And if NC State were to win Saturday, and I don't think they're going to, but if they did, of course, I haven't thought they were going to for about 3 weeks now.
That's right.
But if they were to face UConn in the finals, good Lord, that would be eerie. I mean, it's got Valvano and that run written all over it. I remember
It really does.
One of the things in that particular tournament, that was the pit at the University of New Mexico. Back then, they didn't put it in dome stadiums where you can hear the cheerleaders go, D up, D up, D up. You can hear everything. But back then, the Saturday thing featured what was virtually an all-star dunk contest. Louisville, Daryl Griffith, and I'm missing a couple on that Louisville team. Houston, Clyde Drexler, Akeem Olajuwon. I mean, it was a big dunk fest that Houston won, and NC State in the final basically took it in a totally different way, brought the thing to a snail's pace. 25 points in each half, basically. Final score 53-51. NC State won at the buzzer. And it's one of the truly great, runs to a championship that's ever happened. And a lot of you have seen the 30 for 30, where they bring all of them back after Valvano died, and they're all sitting around like a picnic table. And it was so good. Oh, my God. Every year around tournament time, I want to see that thing because it gets me juiced up for the tournament.
That was a cool deal too, watching that deal, and that's why I said a couple of last year when I got on the show, I'm like, I think everybody in the world needs to be part of a team because those guys are brothers and they love each other. They all get together. Everybody needs to go be involved in a locker room, man. That's where you sweat together, you cry together, you work together, and there's nothing like it in the world. And when you do something like they did, man, that's magical,
Oh, it
and
is.
nothing else in life compares to that.
Billy, have you seen Krzyzewski's commercial for the U.S. Army?
Yeah, I think I know.
He goes, putting on a uniform. Well, but what he says in the commercial is awesome. And you can feel it coming out of him when he says it. Great commercial.
Yeah, it's weird not seeing Coach K in the tournament, coaching the tournament anymore, but they got to get him up there somehow on a commercial. But that's where I want to start in the update. NC State. I mean, Duke. This is Duke we're talking about. I went into this one saying, this is Duke. No way.
They beat the hell out of Duke.
I mean, they bullied them. DJ Burns scored 21 of his 29 points in the second half. They win 76-64. NC State shot 27% in the first half. That was an ugly first half for them, but they looked totally different in the second half. And who would have guessed this? We got the NFL draft coming up. DJ Burns is getting interest from NFL scouts right now.
Oh, yeah, he'd be a great tight end.
But
is he really?
Yeah.
Now, what I don't know is, could he fit all that stuff in a helmet?
Oh, you can. I've seen guys with a bunch of hair get it in. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But you're starting to look at his game a little bit and talk about Zach Randolph from the Grizzlies. I mean, that's a
really good comparison.
Yeah.
He's got great footwork.
Really does. So NC State headed to the Final Four, first time since 1983, winning the title under Jimmy V.
And this guy, Kevin Keats, the coach,
saved his job.
Yeah, when he won the ACC tournament, it kicked in a 2-year extension.
Yeah.
And it's possible, and I don't know this, that there may have been an athletic director going, oh, crap. And
now there's nothing you can do.
Slapping him. You're my friend.
You're my guy. Hey, you're my guy. You're my guy.
We're behind your winter tie.
Gosh,
I was about to fire you last week.
Being an AD's got to be a roller coaster sometimes, especially in that situation. So NC State headed to the Final Four. Also, out east, Tennessee, their season ends with a 72-66 loss to Purdue. I'm sure we'll get all into this with Kerry Keating, but obviously the story was Zach Edey, 40 points, 16 rebounds. Tennessee was out-rebounded 47-26 by Purdue. You're not going to win many games
the difference.
Like that.
But Dalton Connect was brilliant.
Unbelievable.
Holy cow.
37 points. He was 14 of 31 shooting, and he scored 19 of Tennessee's 32 points in the second half. I thought the biggest shot of the game, though, was a three by Lance Jones for Purdue to put them up by 6.
Just under. Rattled.
Yes.
I didn't think it was going in.
And they hadn't hit many shots when they needed to all game. You know, Edey would get it inside, and whether it was Lawyer or Smith, they wouldn't hit the shots. But then they finally got one to go with Lance Jones that rattled in and put them up by 6, and I thought that was kind of the game.
So if they end up playing UConn in the finals, and I think a lot of people kind of want that, they think, and I'll admit I feel this way, that Purdue is the one team that's got a chance against UConn. Those guards, if they're gonna compete with UConn, this going 3 of 16 from 3,
not going to cut it.
They're going to need to hit 7 or 8, and who knows?
It's weird. This year, the Final Four and the title game are on TBS, TNT, and True TV, not CBS, which I think was an interesting twist. I'm not sure why they're doing that.
Well, it's CBS. CBS, when they signed the deal, was not willing to pony up what the NCAA wanted, and so they got all these other entities involved in it. And so that's part of the deal.
5-10 on Saturday. Purdue, 8.5-point favorite over NC State. And then at 7:50, UConn, 11.5-point favorite over Alabama right now. So that's what you got on Saturday. On the women's side, A big night. I want to get into those games tonight a little bit later, but there is some news from Knoxville. They're making a change. Kelly Harper, after 5 years, is out at Tennessee. Of course, in the shadow of Pat Summitt, they've tried a couple of coaches, and they just can't. I mean, it's impossible to live up to what Pat Summitt built and did there. But now you look at it and you go, where do they go? Obviously, it doesn't look like or sound like they're going to stay within the Summitt, Tennessee tree, I guess you could say. There's been some buzz for Kara Lawson, who was at ESPN. She's at Duke right now. I really like Coach Yo at Ole Miss, though. She's done a really good job. She hasn't been there a long time, but it'll be interesting to see what Tennessee does here. I know
Kara Lawson, to me, is the likely choice. I've actually done a game with her years ago, 30 years ago. I did a women's game with her.
She's really good.
Yeah.
I didn't realize she was as good of a coach as she was an analyst too.
Let me ask you all this. Tonight, you've got this game on the women's side that is getting a lot of attention. Iowa with Caitlin Clark and LSU
with Angel Reese.
Yes. What kind of number does this game draw?
I think a huge number.
Oh, it's going to be a lot of people watching that.
Because you get people, that aren't even in sports. I mean, music star. I mean, this is just it's a show tonight. I mean, because of what happened last year.
Let me go specific. Will it have a men's regional final number?
I think it could. It could get close. I just think it's such a draw, and it's about last year. What happened last year? I think going into that, you figured, okay, this is a big game, but because of what happened last year and how it ended and what went down, everybody's been waiting on this since last season.
A good fight early would help. For those who aren't watching it, who find out, little tussle early might be good.
It'll be
George.
I don't know.
Over and under, y'all, on Caitlin Clark's shot selection tonight. Will she shoot 40 times?
She might have.
She shoots a lot.
Yeah.
Good gracious.
They have to have more.
If I'm one of her teammates, I'm thinking, do you have to shoot so flipping much? I mean, I know you can make them, but when you're shooting 35 times and you're scoring points, I mean, good gracious, give somebody else a shot.
Dalton Connect yesterday, 31 field goal attempts.
They've got to get something else other than Caitlin Clark, or else I don't know if they win tonight.
We have a play on that.
Oh, wow.
On a slow Monday night.
How about that?
We've decided to branch out a little. Yeah,
all right, George. Nice.
This is big.
You've also got UConn and USC tonight. Paige Beckers for UConn going at it with a freshman, Juju Watkins at USC.
Juju Watkins.
I've seen Juju.
She is really
Juju
good.
Watkins.
Yeah.
So got
not Juju Smith-Schuster, but Juju Watkins.
They'll need some Juju tonight to beat UConn.
Yeah, UConn favored by 3.5 as the 3 seed over a 1 seed.
Yeah.
Out in Portland. Did y'all see what happened?
Yeah, how about that?
Kelly, did you see that the 3-point line wasn't regulation out in Portland?
I did. Yeah. What do we got going on?
I don't know.
That's a gym. That looks like a gym shoe
operation.
I mean, like Tom Moore said, it's a gym shoe operation around here, so we can't get anything right.
Right. We didn't even know what that was until about a year ago. Do you have other update material?
I do. The Titans cornerback L'Jarius Sneed is going to speak to the media tomorrow at 11:30. Okay. So wanted to throw that out there.
Are y'all breathtakingly awaiting that, Billy?
Well, I know Titans fans are. They're, the appetite for the mundane this time of year is.
I'll help you with it. He's happy to be here.
Happy to be here. The Preds, they lost their second in a row.
Uh-oh.
Here we go.
Boston Bruins, best team in the league, in town tomorrow night.
Big week.
The good news is that they've got enough of a pad as far as getting in the playoffs that none of this would appear to kill them. Got 8 games left in the regular season, and the 8th place is, gosh, I hope I say this right, LA Kings.
Yeah.
and 9th is St. Louis. St. Louis is 8 points back of Nashville. In other words, in baseball terms, Preds have a 4-game lead with 8 to play. They need to win.
They need to win.
Yeah.
Who they got Thursday?
St. Louis.
That's right.
Yes, we'll welcome them.
Yes. Forsberg, he had his franchise record goal streak snapped at 7 games,
God,
which I was
he's
wondering.
Been on a tear.
I was wondering how long that was going to go.
Yeah.
The Braves, baseball is back. They took 2 of 3 from the Phillies. They won Friday and Saturday, but the Phils salvaged a sweep yesterday.
Yeah, they got into the Braves bullpen, and that wasn't pretty.
5-4 win. They got a 3-game series starting today in Chicago with the White Sox, and that is underway right now. Braves up 3-0, top of the 4th.
Let's go.
So Charlie Morton on the mound, pitching well so far. It's weird having baseball already back.
It seems
you're going to have to get used to talking about
It's weird
this.
because it's a week early. Normally, baseball doesn't start until it used to be the day after the Final Four.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of crazy. Anyway, great stuff coming up for you. Kerry Keating will join us from the Raleigh-Durham area. We'll find out how crazy people are about NC State, but we'll also get into what was a classic game yesterday. Purdue's victory over Tennessee. We'll talk all of that and more when we come back.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, "You need to call Bart Durham." And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
I'm Watson Brown.
I'm Kelly Holcomb.
I'm Billy Derrick.
We're the George Plaster Show. We've been Nashville's best sports talk for the last 30 years. And you know what? We still are.
Catch us live weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. Central Time in Nashville on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Also, the podcast version is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Looking for more than just awards and trophies? Southern Trophy House is your one-stop solution. For over 60 years, their team has created lasting impressions with a personalized touch. From embroidery to screen-printed apparel to corporate awards, signs, and name badges, they have everything you need to keep your brand shining bright. With their knowledgeable customer service team, you can relax as they create, produce, pack, and ship merchandise and awards on time and on budget. That includes etched crystal awards, custom-cut acrylic name badges, embroidered Richardson ball caps, banners, screen-printed T-shirts, laser-engraved Yeti cups, and knives. Recognize your hard-working team from Southern Trophy House, where they do their best to help you recognize your best. Located at 2705 Nolensville Pike in Nashville, give them a holler, 615-256-7295.
Visit southerntrophy.com, Southern Trophy House, for all your personalization and recognition needs.
Okay, we got a lot to talk about. Let's get the third man into the screen. He is looking very professorial again. Kerry Keating joins us. Kerry, how are you?
Doing great, guys. How are we doing today?
Good. You're going to love the first question that I got for you. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready for this. This could be one of 10 different things. Hit me.
It could. So I feel very confident that Dalton Connect is going to have a great pro career. I'm not as sure about Zach Edey, who was magnificent yesterday. But in your opinion, what's the pro prospects for him?
You know, Plaz basketball is a supremely cyclical event. You know, you go through these waves of how the game is being played, and it usually is dictated by what the highest level says. What you've seen in the NCAA tournament with UConn, NC State, certainly Purdue, you can argue a little bit of Alabama running a lot of their offense through the bigs, but not to the extent of the other three teams. The big man has certainly seemed to make a resurgence and a return in this year's tournament. As far as what that means to translate to the next level, not quite sure the NBA is ready for that just yet until they move the three-point line back, which I don't know how much further back they can move it. There's just not a lot of space for big guys to operate down there. And that space has primarily been used at the highest level by the better teams as just that space, not a place to score, but a place to operate and pass, vis-a-vis the Golden State Warriors. They use post feeds to run what they call split cuts at the elbow for their guards to get open again. I don't know if we're going to go back to Shaq, Hakeem, even a Tim Duncan type that can operate in the mid post just yet. And that may be just bad timing for Zach Edey. So you may be right in that sense, unless he's relegated to a rebounder and rim protector, which, by the way, pays very handsomely in the NBA. So whereas it might not be what we're seeing here from him in college from a scoring proficiency, he might well as end up in the NBA as a defender and a rebounder, at least at the outset. And if he's around for the cycle to come back, he may have a shot. But I don't think we'll see that in the immediate future for Zach Edey.
See Rudy Gobert. Okay, let's talk the game, which I thought was incredibly intense, a terrific battle of two superstars, and then a little bit of contributing from others. If you were Tennessee, would you have done anything different in trying to stop Zach Edey?
I don't think so. I think their game plan was sound. I mean, obviously it resulted in a couple of guys fouling a little bit more than maybe they thought they did. He's a very difficult player to guard just based on his size, and give him some credit for that size to have the ability to be that mobile. Not many guys are. They're mostly clunky and heavy-footed and can't move. Now, it was amazing to me as I was sitting and watching the game with my son. I just, from a casual observer watching, like, does this guy ever leave the lane? It seems like he's in the lane forever.
Yes.
You know, there's give and take in that, right? It's not necessarily the NBA rule where you have a 2'9" defensive player that 1, 2, 1,003 lifts up his foot and steps back in there. It's not that detailed in college, and there's a little bit more leniency, but it makes it extremely difficult if he at least has a foot in there for more than the possession of the ball. And I tell you where it comes back to hurt is in his ability to rebound the ball. He's obviously that much closer to the basket. So the times where he doesn't get it, and maybe he posts and the guard drives, or there's a curl action and the ball gets attacked or shot, and he's already in the lane, it makes it really difficult, even more difficult to rebound against him. I mean, let's face it, the guy's 7'4", 300 pounds. I mean, It's very, very hard. And I think what Rick and staff had in mind was the right way to go about it. You really can't just all out double them, doubling them on the bounce, doubling them on the catch, changing your timing of that, and then trying just to be physical. But let's face it, we've known this since the beginning of the season, and the stats prove as much, that Tennessee is a very, very physical team. They played physical all year long. They fouled at a high rate, not to where it cost them games, but they're not afraid to throw it around, and they certainly weren't afraid to throw it down yesterday. I think you had a guy that, was just a little bit better than they were, and in the end was the difference. A 2-possession game. There was it was a couple minutes swing there where Dalton had a few looks he wasn't able to get off. Then they really, we talked about this last week. Then they really tried to force the issue to go back to him almost too much, whereas they could have used him as a decoy or a screener, as opposed to trying to get the ball back in his hands. But again, back to the confidence that they have in him to put the ball in the basket, and rightfully so, given the way he started that game off.
So I think we're all deep down kind of saying the likelihood is a Purdue-UConn title game. If that comes to pass, doesn't Purdue have to get a lot more shooting from their guards? I mean, they can't go 90% to Edey against Kleinen.
No, they have a 7-2 kid in their own right at UConn that can actually defend Edey straight up. They won't have to double necessarily. They may dig, they may show, they may, stunt a little bit. And UConn is extremely deep, so they're not going to be afraid to be as physical as Tennessee, if you will, if that's the way the game is going to go. Although national championship games sometimes have a propensity to have a little bit of an impact on the referee's mindset sometimes, the rest of the season notwithstanding. But I'll say this, especially being here locally, I think there's going to be a little bit of a different challenge for Edey against DJ Burns. I'm really curious to see how Purdue guards, given the fact that Duke stuck to their guns of not doubling him, kind of took him for granted a little bit, I thought, the way that they played them, given the fact that they played them twice already this month and had some recency bias in their game planning. It seemed they didn't change anything. And you give credit to Kevin Keating and his staff. They've really completely changed the way that they've been playing for the last 7 years in the last 7 weeks. And it's incredible to have that type of success on this short a turn, given the fact that they don't play that way. They've always played through two guards, having the ultimate freedom, green light to shoot whenever they want. Rightfully so. They've gone through a guy that's super skilled, can really pass the ball, has great touch. And something that really can't be understated, I'm sure is going to be talked about a lot this week with the media coverage with DJ and the pack there. When you have a personality and you have someone that exudes confidence like that, it's almost more valuable than what you can do physically. The mental part of March Madness is real, and the mental side of the positive aspect that a guy like that can have in the team. And you kind of decipher a little bit what he said at postgame. I don't know if you guys caught this postgame. He said, the reporter asked him, what's the difference been? And he kind of is looking around. He really wanted to say it, but he didn't really say it. But he kind of said it like, well, guys have been on time and, there hasn't been a lot of issues. Like you could just tell, like this was just splintered to high heaven at the end of the year. And they all knew, and especially here around town, to a man, you'll never know because it never happened, that this was going to be the end. If the kid makes the free throw to go up 4 at Virginia, if Virginia fouls one of the 3 they have left to give, and McConnell's going to throw that 3 in, we got a new coach at NC State already. It's just amazing how small the margin for error is. But back to Burns, George and Kelly, I wouldn't overlook it. They're not an 11 seed anymore. They deserve to be there. They're playing super well. They're defending. The thing that's amazing is they're not a defensive minded team. They've always been offensive minded. They've shifted their offense, but I think they've held almost every opponent in this run to near under 40%. It's been an amazing run and shift that they've had success with.
Kerry, I want to get you to talk about Burns just a second. Billy, put the picture back up of him. I've got to guess that it's hard early for a coach to buy into a kid that looks like he's considerably overweight. He certainly, doesn't fit the prototypical basketball body. And it would seem to me that you'd be looking for reasons why it can't work as opposed to reasons why it can. You think that's kind of what went on at NC State, that finally the pilot light went on and they said, we're better when he's out there?
I think that happened last year when he was here. Like they wanted him to be better. They probably knew he was. His conditioning probably wasn't to that level where it is now. Let's face it, he's not playing a lot more minutes over the course of the season than he played last year. Last year, he played in 34 games. He played, 23 minutes a game. This year, he's only playing 25 minutes. Now, granted, in this run, he's playing a lot more. Foul trouble notwithstanding, he's playing 30-plus minutes. Honestly, Plaza, I don't think you need to read too much into it. The fact that they literally just made the decision to run their offense through him. I think he's had that capability. Conditioning may have been a factor in him being able to stay on the court. But I remember watching them last year, not this season, but the past season. You could see the skill in him. You could see the footwork.
Right.
Obviously, not going to blow by people, but he can use that body well, and he's showing that now and backing people down. And a guy like that can pass and has that touch. And let's face it, even when teaching young kids how to play, I've relegated to teaching them how to play everyone as a right-handed player. There's so few left-handed players right now at any level that when you come across one like this, it almost tricks you. He's left-handed, but you're so accustomed to everything else being right-handed. And for the most part, blocking shots, contesting shots, which shoulder you're going to play to, you get so preconditioned to that left shoulder for a right-hander that you're usually not taking away the left shoulder or right shoulder for a left-hander. That's the way they're going to turn me to tell those guys which shoulder to take away. And you get it to this late in the season, it's even harder. I just think they've realized that they found something early, and they decided to roll with it. And the guards have fed off it pretty well. There hasn't been dissension among those guards. Watching them last year, I thought that they had a couple guys they misused. They were just so wrapped up in their backcourt. There were other guys that could do some. And let's face it, something else that we probably can't overlook is I think the addition of O'Connell has been probably not as well documented as it needs to be because of the fact he's not the leading scorer. He's not Horn. He's not Burns. He's not even Middlebrooks for that matter. Even though he's probably the one most responsible hitting that shot in Virginia. He if they're going to win on, Saturday, it's probably not going to be as much as Burns. It's going to be how well O'Connell handles the backcourt of Purdue.
Okay, one more thing I want to get to, then we'll go to the break, and then Kelly will take it over from there. Stamina. Most big guys don't have it. I am so impressed at Zach Edey, who played well over 30 minutes yesterday. How many big guys can do that?
Not many, and that you may have hit the nail on the head, is who can outdo the other, because there's a lot of flesh and a lot of meat being thrown around in that post on Saturday. That drains you on both sides. They're going to have to defend each other and play offense against each other. It might come down to obviously who stays out of foul trouble, but who can withstand that? Because the hype of it, being on the national stage, being in the Final Four, but being in that game, I don't think any of us can fathom what it's like to be 7'4", 300 plus until we actually put that weight vest and a pair of stilts on. It's really hard, really hard. It's hard to coach those guys. But I tell you, it's. Did you see him? By the way, did you see him yesterday cut the net and not use the ladder?
That was hilarious.
I mean, like it puts it into perspective. Like, yeah, the guy was bigger, but like he didn't need the ladder. Like the guy's legit 7'4", right? So
unbelievable.
I think it's a great point, George. I think that's a very underrated aspect. You kind of take it for granted, those guys. Now, the NCAA tournament has those long media timeouts where you can buy some more time, but
which does help.
Doesn't make any shorter and doesn't make any slimmer. That's for sure.
Pretty amazing stuff. Round 2 with Kerry Keating will feature Mr. Kelly Holcomb. We're back after this.
Hit After Hit has become the baseball store in Tennessee. They have over 1,000 different models of gloves and over 1,500 wood bats. They also have several Iron Mike pitching machines as well as a Hit Tracks machine. If they don't have it, you probably don't need it. We're proud to call Hit After Hit the official shirt provider of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night.
Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life, improve your immune system, energy level, cognitive function, and more. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458 or visit the website coolspringsmd.com.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Convenience and value, two words that we expect when we do business. Our goal at JHA Company is to deliver just that, both to our school partners and to our customers. Whether you're purchasing photos, yearbooks, class jewelry, letter jackets, school spirit wear, or senior graduation products, we strive to make the experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA, one source, one company.
I know Tennessee fans are down, but they ought to be very proud of what this team showed because they went toe-to-toe with one of the great teams in this country. They're one of the 5 or 6 best teams in college basketball this year. Kelly, I know you got a lot. Kerry Keating joining us from over in that Raleigh area, which is basketball crazy. So go wherever you're going.
Well, George, I was just going to elaborate on what you said about the Burns kid not looking the part. I can remember Coach Donnelly, one of the best things he ever said to me was, son, players come in all shapes and sizes, and you got to go find them. That's what he said. And you're absolutely right about that. But what I was going to ask is I was looking at his weight, like 275, and it's an intriguing matchup. But, like, he's 275. Now, the kid's from Tennessee. You know, the Awaka kid, Jonas Adu, and the I forget the other kid, the white kid's name, but they were nowhere close because that kid is, Estrella. He's 7'4", 320. He does not have to use all that energy. And Awaka was so tired. I can remember me playing football for the Cleveland Browns and me going to Baldwin Wallace and playing some guys in basketball. And I like banging a little bit. So I was 225 at that point, but I was going against a linebacker that was 260. And by the hour that I was finished, I had to go home and take a nap because it took so much energy out on me. Just talk about that. Just talk about, like, how much it takes to guard a guy that is that big, that is not he's not using any energy carry just to go against these guys.
First of all, 275 is generous.
Oh, yeah, it's a biscuit or two.
I'm not one to criticize.
That's what they say.
Woo, that's a slim 275. We're looking 290 at least.
We may be a biscuit away from 300.
Yeah, he's he doesn't. It's hard to imagine, Kelly, the type of the linemen going up against each other all the time, right? The offensive, defensive linemen, just the amount of weight that they're pushing back and forth. It's a little akin to that, because there will be times where both teams throw the ball in and let them back down. More NC State than Purdue. If you watch Purdue, they like to get Edey on the move by setting some ball screens high, and then he'll roll down into space. So he's moving. Now that can put a different type of stress on you if you are the one guarding him, if Burns is in those positions. Either way, it's going to take a physical and mental toll on them. And that's really where you'll see the effects. And keep in mind, guys, in both starts to these two runs that NC State has gone on, one in the ACC tournament and now the NCAA tournament, DJ Burns played 11 minutes in the first game on Tuesday versus Louisville. He only played 16 minutes against Texas Tech in the first round. So they're not 120% relying on him, because they do have a scorer in Horn. They do have guards that can handle and make shots. What's going to be really interesting is how the game is called early, in terms of that banging and the fouling and the displacement, and who's going to be able to hold their ground. Because as we said, probably won't see a lot of double teaming from either team early on, although it was to Duke's demise. And I think Matt is a little bit smarter than that to realize that after a week, they probably do need to bring a certain double to DJ to get it out of his hands. Whereas it's harder to do that against Edey, because he doesn't operate in the mid post. He operates low. It definitely takes a toll. I think early rest for some of these guys right before that. And these timeouts might be even longer, because it's the Final Four. If you can sneak a possession right before that media timeout's coming. I know that's kind of a game we used to play with certain guys back when I was coaching, especially in those Final Fours. It's almost like 3 minutes of real time. So I wouldn't think that the lack of time is going to be due to fatigue as much as it would be foul trouble, Kelly. And I think you're going to see a true heavyweight battle between these two guys, one in height, one in girth, but both banging with a lot of weight and a lot of force behind them.
So let's carry that a little further. If you're the coach of NC State, and like you said, with his minutes earlier in the tournament, he didn't play that much. But how do you defend him? Do you just let Burns take him one-on-one, or do you do kind of like Rick Barnes did, like put yourself in that situation where you're the coach? How do you defend him?
I think anytime Edey sets a ball screen away from the basket, I think you'd actually double team. And as crazy as that sounds, I would put the ultimate pressure on their guards to have to make those decisions under more pressure than they already are. Everyone's so concerned about Edey rolling. When they bring him 20 feet away from the basket, you've got to do everything you can to keep the ball 20 feet away from the basket. Because even if you just show for half a second to stop that progress, that ball's coming out of their hands and it's going right down on an extra pass into Edey. I think you need to put a lot more pressure on their guards to not have an ease of passing into Edey. It's a little bit different with Burns. He doesn't set the ball screens as much as he just gets into the mid post or the low post. And even if in the high post, they'll throw it to him in the high post, let him back down. There's really no one true way to guard those guys with that amount of size. Other than also, talk about conditioning, you might see NC State trying to push the ball a little bit more. The one thing you can do before he gets into any sort of defense is beat him up the floor. Now, he can play. He's got conditioning, but he's not going to beat anyone in a foot race. So getting the ball up the floor quickly and trying to attack before he gets there may be a tactic that NC State would use. That's counterintuitive to what success they've had in the half court with Burns being the focal point, the point center, if you will. But if they're defensively rebounding, this game could be an obvious one where it comes down to the team that rebounds more wins. Now, I'll say this about those type of ultimatums in games with NC State. I don't know if you guys remember this back in '83. They played Phi Slamma Jamma, and Houston's coach Guy Lewis said, well, the team with more dunks is going to win. And he was right because Lorenzo Charles dunked the last basket of the game, and it ended up being 2 dunks to 1, NC State versus Houston. So saying that the team with more rebounds wins in this game may be a little prophetic, and it may come down to that very last defensive rebound before Purdue has a chance to put it back in. I may be a homer here because I'm caught up in the Raleigh euphoria and the passion of the NC State fans, but I really do think NC State has a chance. If I was a betting man, I'd be taking those points and hammering them.
George,
hammering them.
There you go.
Hey,
so I thought this was really. Yeah, I thought this was really interesting, Kerry. The other day, you had 2 superstars that showed up for the game. Zach Edey scored 40. Dalton Connect scored 37. Zach Edey could take his team. I think if you look at Tennessee, George and Billy and I and all of us have been talking about what happens, when Dalton Connect is the only one scoring and nobody else is scoring. And I thought Josiah Jordan James was going to be that guy, and then he kind of fizzled too. So it just seemed like it kind of fizzled with Dalton Connect. He's a great player, but, they were relying way too much on him. Zakai Ziegler couldn't hit any shots. Vescovy, he was sick. He hadn't been there for the last month or two. It just got into a situation where it was too much of a hill to climb.
We talked about that last week when you're over-reliant on one guy like that. And although Edey proved to be successful in that. By the way, quick note, I learned that when you get fouled getting a rebound, you don't get credit for the rebound, because I had Edey plus 1,000, 20, and 20. And 4 of his rebounds ended up in being fouls by Tennessee. It's fascinating when you can watch the game in this way, Plaz. All those years do it. Now you're watching a totally different lens. But Kelly, I think you're right. And we made reference to that last week. It's just it's so hard for one guy. We made what were we talking about? Danny Manning, maybe Glenn Rice in '89 that can just carry your team all the way to a championship. But at that, you have to have other guys show up. And show up and make big plays at big times. I remember I keep going back to that possession in front of their bench where they were, and I'm not sure if it was they had given up the lead or they were just crawling back, and they were trying. They set like 1, 2, 3, 4 screens right in front of their bench on the left wing, trying to get Dalton the ball. So, almost like you got to have him set a screen. You get. I know it's easier said than done because I've been on the other side of that. But you have to have someone else show up for key stretches. Duke had that a little bit with Jeremy Roach because he had that experience, so they weren't overly reliant on Filipowski. It didn't work out for them. With NC State, you actually have the other DJ and DJ Horn that can do that and carry the team. There's always going to be a stretch in a game, especially when you get a guy like Dalton that was rolling early on. Let's not fool ourselves. The 3-point proficiency that he had, I wouldn't say it was fool's gold, but it's almost easier to defend that than it is for a guy going towards the basket. I'm not sure how many free throws he shot. I want to actually look it up while we're talking about Kelly, because this may have been the biggest difference in the game, is how many free throws he took. And when you're in that position, making threes and carrying the team, you've got to put pressure on the other team by getting to the free throw line as well. And I think that might have been a little bit of a difference had they replayed it in their mind to get to the free throw line a little bit, and maybe, obviously keep some time from running off the clock when you need to get back in. But yeah, it's super hard, and that's why UConn's having so much success. They're never going to rely on one guy. They will never rely on one. One guy will have a big game, but it won't be one guy having the same game all the time. I'm just going to flip it up right here. 4 free throws, 31 shots and 4 free throws.
Yeah.
Not the worst ratio, but when you shoot 11 free throws and they shoot 33, you probably want to shift a little bit to get some of your scoring from the free throw, especially when they're going to have that much attention on Dalton, like he warranted early in the game.
Well,
By the
especially
way-
when he's a ball handler. It's a little bit different when Zach Edey's just kind of sits in the paint and you got to try to get him the ball. But when your go-to guy is a ball handler, it's a little bit easier for the defense to, deny you the ball.
Well, and I take it a step further. I think Billy, I think it's hard. It's not easier, but it's more apt to the defense to foul you when you're handling the ball. Like to your point, like you're not just waiting for the guy to catch it. You have the ball in your hands. And again, I didn't watch Tennessee all year. I don't know if they ran any ball screen actions for Dalton. I mean, he's a dynamic player and obviously going, bonkers from three early. But even Lawyer on Purdue's team took 6 free throws. Brandon Smith took 4. I mean, I think that's a differentiator in. Hey, look, it's why Clemson. You point back. It's why Clemson lost to Alabama. Those guys were getting to the free throw line. They couldn't convert. It's one of the biggest, I think, stats that make differences in championship teams is getting to the free throw line. Obviously, you got to convert, but in doing that, you're putting a lot of pressure on their team. I would tell the guys, sometimes drawing a foul on the other team's best player is a good play. You may not score, and sometimes you may miss a free throw, but those things add up, and we still have 5 fouls in the college game, not 6. And it puts a lot of pressure on coaches to play guys with 2 fouls, especially in a national championship type situation. So I'd be curious to see if they're able to have any success, State's able to have success by maybe putting Edey in those situations early on.
Okay. Kelly, you want me to go?
Well, no, I was going to ask one more question about Matt Painter, man. I thought it was really cool because this, Kerry, as a coach, it's a relational deal with players. And I thought it was really cool after the game, the press conference, all those guys talked about Matt Painter and how much scrutiny he's been under. They lost last year. They were, picked to go farther in the tournament. They got beat in the first round as a number 1 seed, and just all the scrutiny that he's been under. I think that's really cool of those guys talking about their coach and how much they love that guy.
I've known Matt we're about the same age. I've known Matt for a long time. As someone who proudly holds a winning record against Matt, I actually won my only game in Mackey. I came to find out after that game, that was when I took our Santa Clara team to a CBI title. We beat Purdue at Mackey. My best player ended up having 20, 30 points. And I actually saw Matt later that summer out on the road, and he let me in on a little secret on why they have so much success at Mackey, even though he didn't intend it this way. He came twice. His players came over to the huddle and said, "Coach, I don't know what you want me to do against this guy. We're fouling him." And then one of the Big Ten officials, because of course it was a home game still, even though it was postseason, came over and Matt said to him, I can't recall the referee's name. Pretty famous Big Ten official said, he leaned over, and how those guys kind of cover their mouth when they're talking to the coach. He says, "Coach, I don't know if I can help you in this one." I was like, Matt, it's so nice for you to admit the fact that you play 8 on 5 every time and that we were able to overcome that. But we spent time in, I think it was 2015 at USA Under-17 camp in Colorado Springs, and he's been involved with USA basketball for a while, and he was on that coaching staff. I was a court coach, and we got a chance to spend a little bit more time than usual when we're on the road. And I actually went to Purdue last year on a separate visit, and he went out of his way during the day to go to lunch and go to the chocolate shop, a famous place right there on campus. He's just a genuinely nice person. He's competitive as all get out now. Let's not, get it twisted. He's run into a few bad luck scenarios. And if there was one guy, I think that if you asked the coaching community, I wouldn't say deserved it, but they'd be really happy to be there, it would be Matt. He's just, I don't know if it's a guy that has any enemies in coaching, and that's hard to come by in a highly uber competitive college coaching community over the last 20 years. It was funny, they put the stat up. I think he's been at Purdue now 19 years, which is just, that time flown by. And he was a player there. He's a Coach Kitty disciple. I saw Robbie Hummel's reaction afterwards. I think he's cultivated such an unbelievable atmosphere there of appreciation and doing things the right way, that his time has now come, and really, really happy for Matt.
Last thing for you. I'm not saying anybody will, but if one of these two teams, Alabama or perhaps Purdue, whatever, can get UConn in a close game with 5 minutes left, there used to be this theory on UNLV when Duke lost to them by 30 and then played them a year later in the semifinal. Nobody challenged UNLV for a year and a half. They didn't look like they had a clue how to handle it. Could that happen here if somebody gets close to UConn?
So you're talking to someone that coached Danny Hurley while he was in college. Also someone who, while he was in high school, spent preseasons in the bingo hall in Jersey City with Danny's father, legendary high school coach at St. Anthony's, Bob Hurley. They are absolutely psychotic when it comes to basketball. And what you're seeing with Danny right now is him not settling for the fact that, A, they won the national championship last year convincingly. B, they've gotten back to this place even more convincingly less than a year later. He's acting like they haven't won a game yet.
Right.
Like, he's literally like, again, I read into all these little things because, having been there on some level and been around these guys, like he cuts the net down, and the natural reaction, again, I've been fortunate to do that at a couple places. Your natural reaction is cut the net down, turn around and acknowledge all your friends and family in the stands. If you're the head coach, you're the last guy. He cut the net down. I don't know if you saw this, and he grabbed the rim and tried to rip it off. Like, I swear to you, like, go back and watch it.
We're looking at it right now.
He's got no. He's got this scowl on his face, and he takes two hands and he's like rocking the rim back and forth. And I'm like, this dude is pissed at something that has nothing to do with the outcomes of these games. He's got this against the world mentality, and the team plays like that, and every guy steps up. And they, what he's done basketball wise is he created, I wouldn't say a Princeton-like offense, but a lot of false motion that leads to really hard to guard activity, because the game has become so individualized and so ISO driven from pro, and it's now trickling into college, that any type of high level talent that can move like that and dance, if you will, it's almost like watching a ballet of sorts. And then all of a sudden they just hit you, right? They get downhill, or they bring a guy off the backside, or the big guy rolls. I mean, you can watch and you'll see how many like uncontested like actions they have, shots they have, because they just have guys chasing them around all the time, incessantly. I think he's just like an evil genius, like toying with people. Like, he's literally like just, he's laughing inside. I mean, I know him well enough to know he's just laughing inside. I don't know if that would lead to them panicking in the last 5 minutes, Plaz. I think what's more at play is the fact that they haven't really been in those situations,
right?
Especially not in the tournament. And the final game can do a lot of crazy things to you. I think what it'll lead to, and hopefully it does, not to say I don't want great games in the semis, but whoever comes out of the other side, if you will, because let's face it, I do think UConn, even if it's close, I don't know if Alabama's got enough to beat them. NC State, Purdue, I think it'll make for if the game is within 2 possessions in the last 5 minutes on Monday night, I think it'll make for some really, really great theater. I think it'll be someone else having to step up on both teams that hasn't had the chance to yet, but is capable. I think it's got all the makings of a classic Monday game. I really hope it's not a blowout. I don't think it will be. I don't think either game will be a blowout, as much as I do think NC State can win. And I think that Connecticut will win, but not maybe by as much as that spread says. I would take both underdogs in the points, by the way. I would take State in the money line, and I would take Connecticut on the money line. And let's go Pack, man. I'm all in on that. Go Pack.
You are a piece of work. You're also really good at this. Kerry, thank you as always.
Thanks. We'll talk again soon.
Kerry Keating joining us from Raleigh, Durham, where there's a group in Durham not very happy. There's a group in Raleigh that is going out of their minds. Nobody understands that euphoria better than former NC State Athletic Director Lee Fowler. After stat of the day, that was harder said than should have been, Lee Fowler will join us, so don't go anywhere. Star Physical Therapy was established in 1997 with one great mission: to serve. If you're hurting, don't wait to receive physical therapy. You don't need a referral to see their physical therapist, and early morning and evening appointments are available. Make the call to 615-673-1420 and get rid of that pain. Star Physical Therapy, the official health provider of Football Friday. Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
Yo, you want to see something cool? No? Well, I'm going to do it anyway.
Step into the scene! No, nobody can do it like me. Zoop house plate with the kick cuisine. I was the black top king, 360s in my green machine. I was a kid and I was breaking down doors. Listening to Tribe, now we on a world tour.
You were in a crash.
Yeah.
Your kids were in the car with you.
We're very lucky to even be telling this story to you. Nikki treated us like family, and she was very caring and loving, and I'm just so grateful for that. She was somebody I could trust, and being a veteran, that's so important to me. My kids are going to have a better life now because I don't have to worry about those expenses that we were out. Your family has really created a legacy of trust, and I would recommend you to anyone.
You know, starting to save for your future doesn't have to be difficult. Let Wilson Bank and Trust help tone up your financial goals this year. Our certificates of deposits or CDs can help your money work harder with our competitive rates, earning you more than ever before. WBT checking options allow you to earn rewards you can really use, like a high interest rate or cash back on check card purchases when you meet some e-banking qualifications. Visit your closest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC.
Top of the hour on a Monday. We're talking a little NC State, keeping the Wolfpack talk going with Lee Fowler, former NC State AD. But first, stat of the day brought to you by John English, Antique Sports and Cards. You can find them out in Shelbyville. They're open during the week, Tuesday through Friday from noon to 5, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5. Give them a call, 931-492-4304. All right, we're going baseball today, and this is a pretty good one here. Michael Conforto started on opening day for San Francisco. For 18 consecutive years, the Giants have had a different left fielder to start every opening day. Who was the last Giants left fielder to start back-to-back opening days?
Good Lord. Kelly.
Are we kidding with that?
We could be here till midnight. We're not going to get it. Put it up there. Good God.
You're waving the white flag.
Oh, I
way
waited.
too quick. Come
Well,
on.
hold on. Okay, hold on a second. That would have been 2005. By then, Barry Bonds was a DH. What the heck? Let's go Barry Bonds.
How about that?
Yeah.
I knew you waved it way too early.
Yeah.
How about that, George?
Barry Bonds.
I
That's
couldn't
a
even think
wild
of a
stat.
guy. I was thinking about a righty, Kevin Mitchell, but he was a righty. He's not a lefty.
Kevin Mitchell was a DH. He had a little bit of DJ Burns in him.
Yes, he did.
Same kind of body. By the way,
He
stat of the
did.
day today brought to you by steroids. Okay.
George,
That was
awesome.
That was ugly. We welcome all of you back to hour number 2 from our digs at the Fordyce Center in Bellevue. And we say hello to former NC State athletic director, former chairman of the NCAA men's basketball committee, former MTSU athletic director, but Kelly, most importantly, my color analyst at Memphis State.
Oh gosh,
Lee
sorry
Fowler.
about that, Lee. Sorry.
Never overcame that, Kelly. Almost.
I apologize, man.
I don't know why I wasn't there that long.
I know, that's right. It's hey, Kelly, don't stay with him more than 9 months. It can ruin your career.
I've already been here more than 9 months. I don't think my career can be any more ruined.
That's right.
Thanks for the vote of confidence.
That's right.
So here is a perception that you may tell me is dead wrong. But I have a feeling that part of the euphoria that the NC State fans are feeling right now is the fact that Carolina and Duke treat NC State like a cow college, kind of thumb their nose down at them. They're NC State. They're a, third-class citizen. Am I right about any of that?
Yeah, well, George, back in the late 50s and 60s, they dominated the ACC and kind of won 10 championships in a row. And unfortunately, they hadn't done it a lot since. And so they bring that up, and the other guys say, well, we weren't born when that happened. So, so they're kind of living on the past, unfortunately. And I wrote the chancellor and the AD today and told him that they put away a lot of ghosts by both men and women getting in the Final Four this year. And George, only somebody at Bennett State would know that yesterday, when the game was going on, everybody in light blue were yelling for red and white because they hate Duke and they don't like State, but they'd rather State win than Duke. So I knew we had most of North Carolina cheering for us to win that game yesterday. And both my son-in-laws, who are North Carolina grads, admitted that they were for them. And I said, well, who are you going to be for in the Final Four? They said, we're done. So they're not going to cheer for NC State now. But, it's so amazing to get men and women. I talked to the chancellor, and chancellor said that Thursday he'd been in Phoenix, Friday he'd been in Cleveland, and Saturday he'd be back in Phoenix. And then, of course, hope from then on it'd keep going back and forth. So, it hadn't happened that many times. I think there's only been one team to actually win both, and that's Connecticut. They won in 2004 men's and women. I think 2014 they won men's and women's. And though that's the only team that's ever actually won it, but very seldom do both teams get to the Final Four. So these are magical times at NC State. And imagine this, George, last Wednesday they had their day of giving. I told the chancellor today that probably would have been better if it was this Wednesday.
Push it back.
Yeah, it should have another day of giving this Wednesday. But no, it's great. And, a lot of frustrations when you're at NC State because they're constantly wanting to beat Carolina and Duke, and not many people do that. So to be still standing, and their run through the ACC tournament was Syracuse, Pittsburgh, Virginia, Duke, Carolina. I mean, talk about a storied year for them. And if you know the past of the league, I mean, that's one of those things that never happens. And so it's been an unbelievable year. And I watch Kevin coach, and he doesn't seem to be doing a lot of X and Oing because they're playing so well. And if they get it to Mr. Burns, I call him, he's kind of like a point guard, and he kind of takes over and does the thing. I went last year with Vanderbilt up to see NC State and Vanderbilt play, and he interviewed after the game. He had maybe 25, 26 against Vanderbilt. and he was interviewing. I was down talking to the radio crew, and he and I visited a few minutes. He's such a delightful kid, very, very outgoing, very energetic, and got the softest hands I've ever seen in the world. And so, I'm sure Coach Keats would wonder why it took him so long to get to this lineup in this group playing like they're playing. But, these are magical things. When they happen, and sometimes it's not because of what you've been doing in practice, but everybody kind of buys in and believes at the same time.
Lee, to me, one of the great things about the NCAA tournament is it creates these magical things. When NC State won it in '83, in my opinion, it's the best 30 for 30 that's ever been. Man, bringing that group together at that picnic table and them all sharing their moments. When you were on the committee, this doesn't necessarily have anything to do with NC State, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What was the best magical moment that you felt in those years that you were part of it?
Well, I mean, there were a lot, but nothing like the '83 team. I think that's the craziest thing ever. And this team's doing exactly the same thing if they win the last
crazy.
two. Now, the one difference, George, I'd say in that year and this year is that I can't believe who played each other in the semis. Louisville played UNLV, or
Louisville played Houston.
That's right.
And NC State played Georgia the year after Dominique Wilkins left to go pro.
Yeah, and so this is a little different because you've got the two best teams, or the two best record teams, not playing in the semis. I always felt like that helped NC State for them to those two to play each other. They kind of felt like it was a national championship, and whoever won that game was going to win it. And they kind of weren't ready for the next game, or didn't play like they were. And so I think this is different because you're going to have to beat both of these teams that are really good with Purdue and UConn. But the tournament itself, I thought the other day, George, and I was chairing '02. It's such a magical tournament because when you started off on Thursday with 64 or 68 on Tuesday, but especially Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you go from 64 to 16. And it's such a unbelievable event that all that comes down and you get 16 and then 8 and then 4. And it's just, I think the whole thing is the best, just because of the competition and the teams that hadn't played all year and are playing, and the chance for an upset and a Cinderella like NC State this year. And they probably don't consider themselves Cinderella, but they sure feel like they wouldn't be playing right now if you ask them after their 4-game losing streak right before the tournament started. And I also think, George, it says a lot for all the guys that want to have 100 and something in the field, or 128. I mean, NC State got there because they did well in their conference tournament. Every school in America can do that and get to the tournament. So I just think it's so special. And every time that comes up and some of the coaches start saying it needs to be expanded, I write Gavitz and say, remember now, everybody has a chance. With 2 weeks left in the season, everybody already has a chance to be in the NCAA tournament. So I hope that they don't dilute it so much where, that they're playing way too many games and some of them don't matter and that sort of thing.
Is your guess what ultimately will happen is that we will have a bigger Tuesday, Wednesday? It started out in Dayton to expand to 68, but that you'll have other sites around the country that, I don't know, take it to 76 and then get it down to 64.
I mean, I think that's the way they would start out doing it by far. And George, believe it or not, I was chairing '02, and that's the year it went to Dayton. That's the first year we had those extra teams. I think they've improved it since then, because when we did it, the bottom 16 seeds all played each other.
Right.
And didn't get a share for winning. And we talked the next year and talked through 2 or 3 years. And then we started saying, well, we play the 10 and 11s. And so we started giving a winning share to that conference. Then the conference they all wanted to play as 16s. They griped about it first because it was all the worst teams, or at least the worst conference RPIs, playing each other. and they didn't get any money for doing that and winning. So then they changed it, and then they took 10s and 11s and put them in there, which I think that Tuesday, Wednesday is really special now too, because basically ACC and some of those teams are playing their way in.
Yeah. Kelly, say hello to Lee Fowler.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, Kelly. As I always say, Kelly's the toughest guy, George, you've ever worked with. I can promise you. and I hate to say that.
I don't know about that.
But Watson, because he was pretty tough too. But Kelly, you doing all right?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Just about to be a granddad. I've got my oldest daughter she's pregnant and she's gonna have a little one in June. So I'm gonna be a granddad. I don't feel that old, but I guess I am getting that old.
Hey, don't be afraid of it. It's wonderful. I just had my 6th. I've got 2 little boys now. I had 4 girls to start out with. So it's great now, and you need to have them earlier than I have. It's 72. Georgia is the present in the mail of my birthday's tomorrow. I'm 72 tomorrow.
72 tomorrow.
72.
Almost was an April Fool guy, but missed it by about 30 seconds, my mother said. So,
wow.
So I hope you wake up tonight, George, have a little indigestion and say, must be Fowler did this to me.
You're looking pretty good, Lee, for 72 years old, Hoss. You're doing pretty good.
That's the best part. I can still hit it down the fairway and find it. So that's the fun part. And I've been blessed, and we all have. But anyway, the tournament, as I said, so much fun. I mean, I block everything out when those games come up because I want to watch them all, because I know there's going to be a storyline that you didn't think about when you start watching them. And there were plenty this year, and there are plenty every year. So I think the guys that run it now are worried about changing it. I don't know what football and all the money involved is going to do to basketball or conference affiliations and all that sort of stuff. Some conferences are really worried, George, about losing their automatic bid because of all this sort of stuff. So,
well, that's what I was going to ask you, Lee, about football. They've kind of, the Greg Sankes and the Kevin Warrens of the world, they want it all for themselves, and they've taken the little guy out. And I worry about sometimes the NCAA tournament. Everybody wants the 16 seed to beat the 1 seed, or the 15 seed to beat the 2 seed. And then, like George said a couple of weeks ago, but once you get down to where they are now, everybody wants those guys gone, and we want the big teams. But do you see that ever changing with basketball, with just big teams and leaving the St. Peters and the UT Martins and the other schools out?
Well, yeah, I hope not, because that's why it's so special. And but the talk of, may not be an NCAA, maybe something else. I mean, who knows what might happen, because they actually run the basketball tournament. So I would hope against hope that doesn't happen, because I think it's wonderful for basketball and all the other sports. And I was involved in the original deal when we took it to when CBS sold off the other franchises, and this is way off the subject, but isn't. I mean, college baseball is what it is today because we were able to make TV for them and them in their tournament, College World Series, be on TV every year. And it was part of the basketball contract. We made all championships had to be televised, and it was rough starting at the beginning. But so I think that tournament means so much to everybody else. Football's kind of separate, and they kind of always had their money and kept their money. So I hope that they don't destroy that, because it means so much to everybody else and their championships and their TV contracts and that sort of thing. So to answer your question, I don't think it will. I think they'll just be at larges. But, if you take away conferences, and the OVC, just throwing a name out there, only has 6 schools, or schools that they don't feel like is deserving, I hope it never happens that they don't give that championship a chance to play, and because I think that's what makes the tournament special.
So you're an NC State guy. So if you're Kevin Keats, how do you defend Zach Edey? What is your game plan, going against the Purdue Boilermakers?
Well, I felt like Tennessee did what you need to do. You got to play him with one person. You got to try to make him throw it over the top, not let him ever catch it with his. There was a great somebody sent out an email, George, you'll appreciate this one, said, congratulations to Purdue for winning Oh, I think it was Mike Rose. You may have seen it. Mike Rose said to Purdue, and the three officials that don't know what 3 seconds is, because he parks in there a long time. I mean, okay, you can't call them all, but when he's into 4, you need to call it. And that's the issue. Now, they do a pretty good job of getting him up high and then rolling him the basket. But I think, to answer your question, I don't think he'll get 40 against NC State, and they have a guy that can, is quick and can move around him. I hope they don't try to triple and double team him. Now, when he dribbles it once, you got to attack him. But when he's inside, you got to try to watch everybody else and play with everybody else. I think they'll have a chance, because I'm not sure anybody's figured out. Every game's different than NC State. You don't know who's going to score. You just know Burns is going to catch it and bang it inside and have a chance to score. So, neither one of them won't get Edey or Burns in foul trouble. So I don't think they'll guard each other. They may start that way. After they get one foul, they'll change that, because if you lose either one of those guys, your team's so much different. So I look for them to kind of play him just straight up and try to make sure nobody else has a chance to make shots. There's been a wonder all year whether Purdue is going to make shots if you play them hard. They have the last couple games, and they've been playing well. But to me, they have got the monkey off their back. They're going to the Final Four, and sometimes teams let down when they do that, because that's been their goal to get there. And now they're there. Watch out for them loosening up too much and not playing well, because they've achieved their goal, even though they'll tell you now they want to win a championship. It was all about getting him to the Final Four, the coach. And I think you don't know how they'll handle it. They may play great. They may play horrible.
So, George, I got one more. And Lee, you can't really answer this question, but it's going to be a fun question. When you were an AD, is there ever been a situation where you were going to fire somebody and then they win the tournament and they go to the Final Four? I mean, I know you can't answer that question, but like, those guys were like, I can't wait to get rid of this dude. And then they make it to the Final Four. They're all hugging, be like, Kevin, you're the greatest. Yep. Have you ever had a situation like that?
No, I mean, I never had that at that level about the Final Four, but I definitely had it where they won games late, won against a rival that was, you hadn't beaten in years. And, they were trying to fire Herb Sendek the whole time I was there. And every year he'd go to Sweet 16, next year losing the second round, then they want to fire him. And then he went like 6 years in a row. And so we were battling that kind of thing all the time. And it's all about the frustration of Duke and Carolina always going, one of them always going to the Final Four. So that situation I can understand. I don't know if y'all saw it, but they fired Kelly Harper today at Tennessee. I don't know.
Yeah, we did.
Kelly was my coach at NC State. I hired her from Western Carolina, so I hated to see that. But Wes and her were close. They were my 2 finalists, and they both have worked at NC State. I'm just wondering if they'll both work.
Uh-oh. We losing Lee?
It feels like it. Kelly, I'm about to tell a good story on Lee.
Okay.
About a coaching situation. So Lee was about to fire a guy that was a friend of mine, David Farrar, as the basketball coach at Middle. And David, I loved him, could be a real smart aleck, which of course I love.
Well.
Okay, so I'm going up there on a Monday night to do like an OVC game of the week, and Middle is involved in it. Farrar goes, and there had been a big story in the paper that day, Fowler versus Farrar, and I'm kind of caught in the middle because both of them are friends. Well, Farrar goes to the truck, to the people in the truck early, and says, here's what I want to do. When can I do it? And they give him the time. They give him the perfect time to do it. After the stand-up open, there's then another segment where I've got to say, here are the starting lineups. First for the visitors from Morehead State, kind of thing. And right as I do that, Farrar walks up and he opens up his coat pocket to the sign, "Will work for food." That segment
That's
never
great.
happened. Nobody knew who the starting lineups were. I couldn't get through it.
Yeah.
And, do you remember that, Lee?
Yeah, I do. And George, believe it or not, maybe just he and I knew it, but I told him that we were not going to retain him, and he beat Vanderbilt after that in a game. So, Dave, you never like somebody that's fired you, but I like Dave and always like Dave. And that's the toughest thing you do in sports is letting somebody go. And it's always, we appreciate all you've done for the program and all that sort of stuff.
We wish you the very best in your future endeavors.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing in the world to do. And I had to do it with Chuck Amata, and they wanted me to wait till after the game. And I just felt like I'd want to know. And so I went to him on a Thursday morning and told him and where he'd know and be able to handle himself like he wanted to. And that, I mean, it's tough. It's not easy. That's the toughest part of that business. And especially if you got an alum that's coaching for you, and that's even tougher. But anyway, NC State is going to. I can't figure out how they're going to lose because they haven't yet figured out how they lose. So
it's amazing.
It's going to be interesting games.
Can I ask one last question?
Sure.
This will get Billy Derrick's attention. So, not many people ever play with somebody 7'4" tall.
Mm-hmm.
You did at Vandy. Steve Turner from Memphis, Tennessee. What are the things that a 7'4" guy has to battle that a 6'6" guy doesn't?
Well, I mean, Steve, unfortunately, couldn't dunk then. If he could have dunked, he'd have been really a good player. I mean, he was really strong upper body, but he didn't have a lot of touch from 2 or 3 feet. And that made it tough because you had to shoot it instead of just leaning and dunking it. But it's such an advantage because they just tippy-toe and can dunk it. And that guy's got a lot of ability. I'm amazed sometimes when he goes over his right shoulder and hooks with his left hand. He's got more ability than I've seen in a guy that tall. I mean, it's hard to guard because he does things and can do things without jumping. And that's rebounding and all those sort of things. And there are other guys like Baycock at UNC that are not 7'5", but they're 6'11", and they have the same advantage. The guy goes down, jumps back, and he's 6'6", and that guy's just reaching and getting the ball. So they give so many advantages because of their reach. Keith Lee had a great reach. He was 6'9", but he had reach of a 7'1" guy. So reach is important, and he has all of it. He can jump, and I would think because he played hockey and other sports growing up, he had a lot better leg movement than most kids do. But yeah, it's a difficult situation and something nobody's seen. I mean, State's not seen anybody like that. So that helps if you're on the Purdue side. But I don't know if anybody's seen Burns either. He's such a unusual fella, also being left-handed, and man, he's got such big old soft hands. It's amazing.
And great footwork.
Yeah, and a friend of mine over there said that the NFL's looking at him about playing down lineman. He played football in high school or junior high, and so they're looking at him because of his great footwork and stuff. So it's going to be interesting. When are you going out to Phoenix, George? I'll see you out there when you get there.
Yes, I have not gotten. You have not supplied me with the tickets that years ago you told me you would. I'm afraid you'll be dead by the time I get them.
Oh, wait a second, Joe. Don't say that to a 72-year-old. I mean, kid people like Kelly who are 52. Don't kid the
That's
damn.
morbid, dude. Come on, man.
That was awful.
George,
I apologize.
George, if you could just come with $900, I could set you up out there.
I don't doubt you could.
Yeah.
I don't doubt you could. I'll tell them when I get there. I know Lee Fowler.
Hey, I'm pay for mine like everybody else does. So there's no giveaways with the NCAA.
No
but
free ride.
I do get good seats. That's a good.
Yeah. Free lunch program in effect.
We have breakfast and dinner, but no. Well, hey, lunch went out because we're at the pool now at our age at lunch, so we don't have free lunch anymore.
Sounds rough. Hey, have a good trip. Thank you for coming on.
All right, thank you, Kelly. Great to see you. See you, George.
Yes, sir. You too.
See you, Lee. He's a good man. He was also a damn good color analyst. Enjoyed. Oh, terrific. Well, I mean, just listen to him.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I mean, he's awesome. I mean, he's kind of like Kerry Keating. You just give him something and he rolls with it. You know, he's so knowledgeable about what he's speaking of.
After the break, a big announcement, and then a question. Stay tuned.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, "You need to call Bart Durham." And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
The George Plaster Show is Nashville's best sports talk, 2 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. There's a podcast version available on Spotify and Apple Podcast.
Looking for more than just awards and trophies? Southern Trophy House is your one-stop solution. For over 60 years, their team has created lasting impressions with a personalized touch. From embroidery to screen-printed apparel to corporate awards, signs, and name badges, they have everything you need to keep your brand shining bright. With their knowledgeable customer service team, you can relax as they create, produce, pack, and ship merchandise and awards on time and on budget. That includes etched crystal awards, custom-cut acrylic, name badges, embroidered Richardson ball caps, banners, screen-printed T-shirts, laser-engraved Yeti cups, and knives. Recognize your hard-working team from Southern Trophy House, where they do their best to help you recognize your best. Located at 2705 Nolensville Pike in Nashville, give them a holler, 615-256-7295. Visit southerntrophy.com. Southern Trophy House for all your personalization and recognition needs. Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
We are back, and so is the Wilson Bank and Trust Sports Speaker Series. Kelly, Guess who we've got in about 2.5 weeks?
What sport? Give me a sport.
It's hard to do that.
I
Football.
can't. Is it football?
Football.
Jeff Fisher.
And Eli Gold.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
There you
Nice
go.
shades that Jeff's got on in that picture.
He's always looking like that.
So we're excited about this. And hopefully you are as well. This is the first time we've let the cat out of the bag on this one. It will be the way we've done all of these at the Fordyce Center in Bellevue. It'll be around lunchtime. We'll end it around 12:45, so you got time to get back to work. If you want lunch, it's available out here on the second floor where we do the show. If you don't want lunch, you just show up. So the way to do this is to email me, plastergeorge@gmail.com. plastergeorge@gmail.com. Let me know how many seats you want, and we'll take it from there. Pretty
Nice.
excited about this.
That's going to be good.
Nice.
Eli's looking good in that picture.
He is.
I'm thrilled for his good health because a year ago, boy, nobody knew for sure. So that's what we're doing around the fact that Eli will be the voice of the Nashville Cats. Jeff Fisher is involved in putting that team together. Greg Pogue also involved with it. And really appreciate Pogie helping me to put this together. So there we go.
Nice. There you go. I
Wednesday,
like it.
April 17th. If you want to sign up, simply email me, plastergeorge@gmail.com. You'll hear this a lot over the next 2.5 weeks.
Nice.
Okay. Are you ready for just a tad bit of a football note?
Tell me.
Did you watch 5 minutes of UFL?
I did not.
Billy, did you watch 5 minutes of UFL?
I did not, but I saw there was a kicker that made a 64-yard field goal to win the game, and he might be in the NFL next year.
And I happened to see it. His name is Jake Bates. And the deal is that he really didn't get much of a shot either at Texas State, which I used to think was a prison. You've been sentenced to Texas State. Or the University of Arkansas, which, if you're not winning football, could feel like a prison. Anyway, somehow he got noticed enough to get on one of these teams, and he knocked home a 64-yarder, and he had plenty of room to spare. Like, what the hell are these kickers taking?
I told you, man, it's crazy.
Kelly, when I was growing up, 52 yards was about the max that you ever saw a kicker go. And then, of course, Dempsey hit the 63-yarder. But now they act like a 57-yarder is a chip shot.
Yeah, it's especially with these new rules, and you kick it in the end zone, and they get it at, I think, at the 35. Is that what we said? You get it at the 35. I mean, 20 yards, 25 yards is all you need. It's 2 first downs. I mean, you're in field goal range for some of these guys, man. It's incredible.
Now, ask me if I watched a lot of it.
No, you didn't watch any of it. You saw that on SportsCenter.
No, that's not true. I saw it live.
You did? Okay.
I happened to be at the house, turned on the TV, and it actually was the channel that had the game on. And so I happened to see a couple of minutes of it. Bob Stoops is the coach of the Arlington franchise, and they play in the Texas Rangers' old stadium. And which
Wade Phillips was the other coach.
Wade Phillips.
I don't know. I saw him.
I want to say he was San Antonio, but he's Birmingham.
I don't know. I don't know. I just saw him. I saw him, after that game. I saw him after a game the other day, and I figured I was
He
like,
is coaching in that league.
He's
I
San
can't believe.
Antonio's coach.
Yeah, first of all, I can't believe that Wade Phillips is still coaching. Good gracious,
That is
he's getting up there in
unbelievable.
age. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he's mid-70s, I think at least.
It feels like the
Really good football.
UFL. Yeah, it feels like the UFL with Stoops and Fisher. I know Fisher's not coaching anymore, and he's in the AFL, I guess, technically now. But the UFL and the AFL with these older coaches is a chance for them to just sort of stay in the game, have fun still. And, because for them, they'd rather do that than stay at home and, have to go with their wife to the grocery store and
Let's
stuff like
check
that.
out the produce.
Yeah.
So,
or she sends you to the produce.
Right, and you don't know what the hell you're looking for.
No, that's why I have to call her like 3 or 4 times when I'm at the store.
Like the Lion and Animal House. Are cucumbers sensual or sensuous? So Skip Holtz, I believe, is the coach in Birmingham.
Yep.
I think so. Yeah, I think you're right.
When asked about it, Lou Holtz had this to say.
Son, are you going to win any games there? What kind of offense are you running? Are you got a fullback? You've got tight ends? Or are you going 10 personnel, son?
Thank you. Okay, Kelly, reports of my betting demise have been greatly exaggerated.
Did you do well this weekend?
I kicked butt.
Did you?
Yes.
I know you didn't go 8-0, though.
Nobody goes 8-0.
Well, you said you were.
Well, you can believe that if you want.
All right,
No,
let's
I
do a
didn't.
little review. Bet of the day brought to you by Bart Durham Injury. Log him a call, 615-242-9000, or log on to bartdurham.com. Here we go. I guess these are Friday and
These
Saturday.
are Thursday, Friday.
Thursday, Friday.
Remember,
Clemson.
our last show was Thursday.
Yes.
And you did not have to do a show Friday, although you got paid for it.
Well, thank you, George.
You're welcome.
That means a lot.
I know it does.
So 3-1 both nights. It's not too shabby.
Not bad.
Nice, George.
Clemson won outright, and NC State won outright. And both of them were pretty big dogs.
Man.
Getting closer to 500.
And I will say this. Houston would have won, I believe, if Jamal Shedd had stayed healthy.
I'm with you.
Yeah, that
I
was
think they
awful.
probably would have. That was terrible.
So guess where we're going tonight?
Caitlin Clark and LSU.
Well, okay.
But which side?
Yes, which side?
I don't know what the line is.
It's tight.
Iowa -2.
So, George, you're going to take LSU.
Billy?
Bingo.
There you go. I told you.
Look, I need to continue winning because, I've been disrespected. Nobody believes in me anymore. But this weekend, I made you some money.
So I was a 2-point favorite.
Yeah, I don't get that.
I would have never guessed that. I would have think LSU would have been the favorite.
I think a big part of it is just the revenge factor. If you're Iowa, you've got all the motivation to beat this LSU team in the world.
So this one is 6:00 tonight on one of the ESPNs.
6:00, and I want to say ESPN, yeah.
The mothership.
The mothership.
Oh, that's big.
Not Ocho, not ESPN Ocho.
No, it is not.
Not where we could get dodgeball.
Yeah, ESPN.
No. Tomorrow on the show, Tony Basilio will join us from Knoxville. Taylor Barnett will join us from who knows where. It'll be a good show. We ask you to join us. For Kelly Holcomb, for Billy Derrick, and for our entire crew.
That's it.
That's all we got. See you tomorrow.
See ya.